Gather round, my children, there's a story I must tell about our town of Flyspeck and a lady named Belle. Belle Lettres bought the town saloon, she painted out the O. So now it's a salon where all us cultured cowboys go. Marshall comes here. To him, it's like a school. And Belle, she is his teacher. And his test, well, it's a duel. A duel with Bad Bart Braggart, an outlaw, that's for sure. And the weapons for this fight will be literature. Literature?
There you are, Handsome Hank. How's Handsome Harry?
Oh, he's happy and healthy, thanks.
Well, good. Now that book is due back in 2 weeks. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, thanks, Bill. Good night now.
Good night.
I'd like to take this book home.
Why, did I? Another book of poetry?
Shh. My little Trixie just loves to listen to me read poems to her.
Well, I think that's nice. There you are. Good night.
Thanks, Bill. Good night.
Well, Steinway, I guess that's it for tonight.
I wonder why the marshal didn't come in tonight.
Well, I hope it's because he's home reading books. He's got a lot of studying to do if he's going to face big, brave, bad Bart Braggart in a literature duel.
Big, brave, bad Bart Braggart. He sounds like a mean character.
Character? Well, Belle, that's what you're supposed to tell me about characters, right?
Well, yes, Marshall, that's going to be our first lesson in the morning.
Belle, I got this big duel coming up, and you haven't taught me anything about literature. Now, we got to get started.
Well, all right, Marshall. Come and sit down for a few minutes, and we'll talk about character. Steinway, why don't you whip up some of that wake-up tonic for us?
Wake-up tonic? What's that?
Ooh, it's raw egg, blackstrap molasses, and goat's milk. Delicious.
Oh, why don't you skip me, Steinway? I'm not sleepy right now. I don't have a sleepy bone in my body.
Well, all right, Marshall. Now, look, I made some cards for the stereoscope that I thought might help you learn about characters.
Well, that was very thoughtful. I just love to look at pictures. Well, there's no picture in here.
Well, they're coming up. I wanted you to see the word characters first. Now, characters are the people in a story. Characters can also be animals or things that act like people.
Mm-hmm. Who's that? What? That's Little Red, what's her name?
Little Red Riding Hood. She's a character in a story who is a person.
Oh, the Three Grizzlies. Now, those are animals who are characters in a story.
Well, that's right. And a third kind of character is...
The trickiest cookie in the West?
The gingerbread man. He's a character in a story who is a thing, but a thing that acts like a person. So, Marshall, tell me, what is a character?
A character is a person, or an animal, or a thing in a story.
Oh, well, that's right.
Yeah! Come on, big, brave, bad Bart Braggart.
Wait, Marshall.
What's that?
There's more.
There's more?
There's a lot more.
A lot more?
Sit down, Marshall.
Sit down.
Now, take a look at this word.
Mm-hmm. Realistic characters.
Realistic characters are characters in a story that seem real.
Huh. Well, that's Mouse and Izzy. They were in that book I just read.
Mm-hmm. Now tell me, did they seem like real boys to you?
Well, yeah, they did seem real to me.
They seemed real, but they were not. That author, Betsy Byers, made them seem real by the things she told us about them. You see, Marshall, an author builds a character in much the same way that an artist paints a picture of someone. Now, just take a look at this picture.
Ooh! Belle, cover your eyes. There's a naked person in my stereoscopic scope.
There is not. That's an outline of a person.
Well, who is it?
Well, let's say that that's the beginning of a character. Now, the author tells us something about that character to bring it to life. For example, that might be a 12-year-old boy with red hair and blue eyes and freckles.
I'm starting to see him.
Well, we're beginning to fill in the character. Now, suppose the author says that the boy is tall and skinny and loves to play baseball.
Hey, he's starting to look like Handsome Harry and Handsome Hank's kid brother, Handsome Herman.
He's beginning to be a realistic character. But, Marshall, in order for that character to really come to life, the author needs to tell us much more. Now, what are some things that the author could tell us about that character?
Well, what's his name? And can he ride a horse?
Right. Or, what does he like to do? What makes him angry?
How far can he spit?
What makes him sad? What does he want to be?
Right, Steinway. And you see, Marshall, a good author can really bring a character to life just by answering these kinds of questions. Let me show you what I mean. Now, here is a character named Marcia.
Marcia. Marcia, well, she looks like she's learning how to ice skate.
Ice skating is very important to Marcia. In fact, Carol Fenner, who wrote this book, begins to tell us about Marcia by telling us about Marcia's ice skating dreams.
Once there was an ice skating champion, a beautiful black figure skater. She was tall and smooth and slender. She could swoop across the ice and leap into a double turn high in the middle of the air. She could spin so fast she could hardly be seen except for a whirling blur. She could also do a flying camel, a beautiful slow spin on one leg, her body bent sideways into her reaching arms. But there was only one person who knew where she lived. A girl named Marcia knew, because the beautiful black figure skater lived inside Marcia's head. The big gleaming skating arena lived in Marcia's head too, and the music that was played, and the audience in the shadowy stands. There in the audience of her dream sat her mother, her mouth round with surprise. Sometimes her father, who had died when she was little, was there. His face was dim and smiling, and he would clap his big hands gently to the music. Her older brother, Leonard, was always there, feeling sorry he had ever called her fatty. They all watched as she skated in the silvery arena. She was tall and smooth and slender. She never missed a turn. She never moved out of step with the music. She never fell down. In Marcia's wide-awake real life, she had been watching the championship skaters on television ever since she was 6. She had never seen a black skater on TV until the year she turned 8. Then, suddenly, there she was, slipping across the screen, a bold figure against the ice. Marcia's mouth had dropped. Then she had watched critically. But the black skater never faltered. She finished her piece with a slow, melting spin. Marcia had let her breath out with the spin. Her dream was beating fiercely in her heart. Marcia herself had never skated with real ice skates on real ice. Sometimes she skated without skates. She would stand alone in her room, her arms lifted in the empty air. She would bend forward and extend one leg behind. But that was not nearly as satisfying as being the champion star skater who lived in her head.
In just a few pages, we've learned a lot about Marcia.
She's a little girl with a big dream, and her dream seems a long way off. I mean, she's a little clumsy, and she doesn't know how to skate. She doesn't even have a pair of ice skates.
But Marcia holds on to her dream. Now, a year goes by, and as Christmas draws near, Marcia begins to hint to her mother that she sure would like to have a pair of ice skates for Christmas this year.
On Christmas morning, the first thing Marcia saw was her stocking, bulging with tangerines and Mars bars and pretty pencils. Then her eyes flew over the piles of packages to a large box covered with red tissue. It had silver stars pasted into the shape of her initial, a big, starry M. Her heart crowded into her throat. She couldn't bring herself to open the red box right away. First, she opened a flat box with a red striped homemade apron in it. She unwrapped a new plaid dress with a lace collar. There were 2 new books for her, but her mind was on the box covered with red tissue. She grew first hot, then cold from excitement. She opened a paint set she liked and a baby doll she didn't. There was a gift of warm underwear from Aunt Jessie that her mother said she should be thankful for. Leonard gave her a flashlight, which he told her would keep her from tripping over her feet if she would keep it shining on them. Finally, the present covered with red tissue was the only one left to open. She tore at the tissue, careful not to rip into the big M. The box inside looked like the one her last year's winter boots had come in. When she opened it up, there inside the whispering tissue bulged the ugliest ice skate she had ever seen. For a while, Marcia just sat staring at the skates. Then, dumbly, she took them out of the box. "They were your Uncle Richard's," said her mother. "They were his skates when he was 7. He was about your size then. He kept them up real nice. They're almost as good as new." Marcia kept her eyes on the skates. Uncle Richard was old now. Old, at least 30. She could feel tears pushing to get out behind her eyes. "Your Uncle Richard is a fine skater," her mother continued. "He learned how to skate on those skates. They'll be a good start for you, Marcia, till we see how you take to skating." Marcia sat on the floor with the box at her side, the ugly skates in her lap. "I remembered packing them away in the attic years ago," her mother was saying. "Richard'll be pleased to know they're being used." She added tartly, "if he ever stops by long enough for a little conversation." But Marcia was feeling the beautiful black skating champion inside her head disappear. The music and the arena were fading away. She was 9 years old, a round and chubby little girl with no more wishes in her heart. Her dream had deserted her, and the ugliest skates in the world lay in her plump little lap.
It was a pretty disappointing Christmas for Marcia, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wonder what she's gonna do.
I know what I hope she'll do.
Well, what's that, Steinway?
Well, Marcia has a dream, and people need their dreams to give them hope. I guess this poem by Langston Hughes says it best. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. Hold fast to dreams, hold fast to dreams.
You mean she shouldn't give up, right? Does she give up?
Well, Marshall, why don't you read all about it for yourself? And while you read the book, pay attention to the problems Marcia faces. Realistic characters often have realistic problems.
You bet, Belle. Belle, what are realistic problems?